Hi, I'm Shari with Organizational Learning and Talent Development. In our first video on the circles of influence, we defined the three circles and we looked closely at the circles of control and the circle of no control. So please check out that video. We'll link it in the description below. So most of us focus a lot of our attention, our time, our energy in the circle where we have no control. So we spend our time worrying about things like the weather, other people's annoying habits, what's going on in the news that might affect our lives, and spending our mental and emotional energy in areas that truly are outside of our control just adds a lot of stress and anxiety and really saps our energy. In his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey says that the most effective people think and act primarily within their circle of influence. And that's good news because it means that we have more power than we think. So what's in our circle of influence? Let's go look. And just like in the first video, these are just examples to show what the circle of influence is. So all of our specifics are different. So be thinking about what you would put in your circle of influence while we look at these examples. My career. So some elements of our careers are outside of our control, but there are some elements we can do something about, like adding new skills. My health. I definitely can't control this, right? I might have been born with pre-existing conditions. That's the past. We know we can't control the past. I might be hit by lightning tomorrow. That's the future, can't control that. However, I can influence my health by some of the things that are in my circle of control. So physical activity, eating habits, sleep habits, whether or not I take my meds. My knowledge and understanding of what's going on in the world around me. I can stay informed, and when I read something on social media, I can check into the source to see if it's reliable. My preparedness for a whole host of things that might be in the circle of no control, like the weather or the bad drivers. My emotions. We all have rough days, and sometimes we can affect how we feel by doing some of the stuff that is in our control. Some people. Sometimes, not always, we can influence others by our actions, our example, our support of them, how we treat them. I know I've been influenced by others before. And this is where our power lives, because depending on our choices, this can be a very big space. When we are reactive, we spend all our time and energy on the things that we can't do anything about. So it makes us feel pretty terrible. As an example, we might say, oh my gosh, it rained all Saturday and it rained all Sunday and it ruined my whole weekend. So anytime we are reactive, it makes our circle of influence smaller. Covey says that the most effective people are proactive. They pay attention to where their efforts can have the greatest impact and get the greatest results. They take initiative and focus on what they can do. When we're proactive, we put our energy into letting go of the stuff that we can't control, and we focus our time and energy where we can make a difference. So for example, my girlfriend texted me this weekend and she said, I'm going to go walk by the river. And I wrote back and said, well, it's pouring out. And she said, I know, I'm just going to put on my raincoat and take a walk. It'll be great. I'll have the whole river to myself. And I thought that is a great example of being proactive. So we can't influence the weather, right? But we can think about how to deal with it. We can also work on ourselves. How can I let it go? And if we're really upset about something, we can also work on how can I cope with it. So being proactive means that we actually enlarge our circle of influence. This means that our success is not dependent on our circumstances. We can choose our responses to our circumstances and focus on what is possible for us to do. We can also work on managing our emotions and finding ways to cope with some of these items. When we challenge ourselves to think differently, we often find that we have far more influence than we at first thought. And making the choice to focus on what we can do makes us feel better through life's ups and downs, and it produces better outcomes in our lives. In fact, be sure to check out the handout that we have linked in the description. It has some really thought-provoking questions that help us figure out how to expand our own circles of influence.